Good evening, friends. I just wanted to take a few minutes and share some things that I've studied concerning Scripture and word etymology. And hopefully, through a little presentation or explanation, I can hopefully inspire some people to dig a little more thoroughly and use some tools when they're searching Scripture. The language that we speak today is so corrupted, it's embarrassing and shameful. The word nice, if you look at it in word etymology, go back to 13th century, I think, it means that someone is mentally retarded. And other words have changed so much over the course of centuries that when we read the Scripture, we don't know the meanings of the words we read. And when we go into our Strong's Concordance, where we get the translation of the words that we read in our Scripture, that the Strong's takes us back to the Hebrew word or to the Greek word for the New Testament. And then we have a definition describing what the Greek or Hebrew word means. So we assume often that we understand what the English word means. And I'm going to tell you straightforward that the language is corrupted. And when you look at them words from a 10th through 14th century meaning of the words, more often than not, they have a very, very different meaning than how we use them today. So, just for example, we see in the Old Testament where Moses and Joshua, as they went through the wilderness and then into the land of Canaan, that they were commanded to, with their armies, go in and utterly slay the inhabitants of the land by whatever nation they came to war against. And then there was different instructions, whether they killed only the males or the males and the women and children, or in some cases it included all the livestock also. And so just in the just looking at the Hebrew text alone, when we start looking at the definitions of the livestock, you're going to start seeing that it generally will have something that you can attach a man to. So there's a part of that definition of all sorts of different beasts that we see in Scripture. There's an attribute of them that applies directly to you and to me. And these are how the parables are unwrapped. So we need to be able to recognize them, words in the Scripture, and what the definitions are there. And then whatever English words are given, go into a word etymology tool. I use Etymology Online, and if I'm not comfortable with what I get there, then I'll do other cross-references through other sources. But I've found the word etymology online site. It's a website, and they're fairly reliable. When I find words in there that seem to not line up with the plan of salvation and walking in covenant with Yahuwah, then I have to question, what the meanings of these words are. And when I see words that I can't find any reference to before the 15th century, I'm not very comfortable following that line of definition from that word only. So there's normally enough words supplied in the definition to find a word or several words that have an older definition that I can go to and be comfortable then with the meaning, and then cross-reference that through the word etymology tools, and really get a better understanding of what Scripture is talking about. So many people struggle with the change of narrative from the time of Moses to the time of Messiah, because we see in the Old Testament that there was all these wars. They were going in there and just killing masses of people. And then when we get to Messiah and the disciples, it's a whole different narrative, and he's telling them to go out and go into a city, and whatever house will receive you, let your peace rest there and stay in that house as long as you stay in that city, and don't go house to house, but to use that as your dwelling place, and then whoever will meet you in the city or at that house, preach. Then when you leave, call your peace back to you, or if they won't receive you, call your peace back to you, and stamp the dust from your feet as a testimony against them. So as I started studying back into the text, Moses was commanded and Joshua was commanded to utterly slay them with the edge of the sword. And it just, at the black and white text level, all you see, or all I could see, was utterly destroy. That means completely, without a second look, just go in and kill every living being. And that really didn't rest well with me. Yahuwah says, "Thou shalt not kill," and then he gives this commandment to go kill all the inhabitants of this land. So I start looking at the meanings of the words that are used in these passages, and exhaustively, and I mean without exception, every place that we see edge of the sword, whether in the Old Testament or the New Testament, the word edge is translated as mouth. So we see that this is a reference to the sword of the mouth. And it expressly in Revelation, Yahuwah says, "I will fight against you with the sword of my mouth." And another place, Revelation, he says, "Out of my mouth is a two-edged sword." So the edge of the sword is the word that proceeds from our mouth. A sharp sword able to divide bone and marrow. So when we go back to the Old Testament, there was a commandment for the priests to go ahead of the armies. And when they would go into a nation, the priests were in the front, and they would declare peace to these nations as they were going through. And if they received them in peace, then they did not go to war with them. But if they did not receive peace, then they were to go to battle. So the weapon they were using was the edge of the sword. It was the spoken word out of their mouth. And so the law of the priest declaring peace lines up with Messiah telling his disciples to declare peace where they went. And if they did not receive him or them, to call their peace back to them and stomp the dust from their feet. So we see a continuity from the Old Testament to the New Testament. So then we see also these words utterly slay. And just from my understanding, utterly slay was like without recompense. Just go in there and everything that's living, moving, breathing, kill it. And that was the common understanding. But utterly is a root of utter, or is has a suffix on it, but the root of it is utter, and it is the same word where we get utterance or utterances, which means things spoken. And so again, we see the edge of the sword is the sharp sword from the mouth, and now we see utterly, it's utterance, and so we've spoken again. And then the real amazing thing is when we look at this word slay, it carries a certain amount of kill, destroy idea with it, but the older meaning of that, it comes from a German word, and I won't even try to recall what that German word is, but slay means to overwhelm with delight. Now that was kind of profound, but utterances of overwhelming delight spoken from the mouth. The two-edged sword. This is a picture that's a perfect picture of speaking the gospel, the glad news. When we look at the word flesh in the Old Testament, where they were given flesh to eat, the word basar and basara, it means glad tidings. So when Messiah came and he was the Word made flesh, he was the Word that came in glad tidings. So the continuity in the instructions given from the Old Testament to the New Testament are they're the same. Yahuwah didn't change from an evil, we're killing all these other nations in the Old Testament to now we're coming in here and we're going to be peaceful and everything. It was one thing throughout. It was love and peace and joy, patience, long-suffering, endurance, self-control. So the fruits of the Spirit never changed from the Old Testament to the New Testament. The commands never changed from the Old Testament to the New Testament. The change in the covenant, Yahuwah said, I will make a new covenant with the land of Israel in those days, or with Israel in those days, not like the covenant I made with their fathers. I will remove their stony hearts. So the original covenant was written on stones that were placed in the wood ark, and he will take away the stony heart out of that wood ark, and he will give us hearts of flesh, hearts of glad news, utterances of overwhelming delight. So now he's taken away my stony heart. The law is no longer an inflicted law that someone can force me to do and condemn me for not doing it, because I have so much joy in the law, in keeping the commandments, that I'm going to speak them, the utterances, with overwhelming delight. So when I recognize this from the New Testament, the Old Testament, there's a connection, and it's a continuity that doesn't change throughout Scripture. And I will write my laws in their minds. So the change in the law that Paul writes about is form and locality. From what I can see, the form, it was the stone tablets were removed, and he gave us a heart of flesh, of gladness, good news, and he wrote it in our mind. So the form is changed from the stones that were in the ark to the fleshy heart that's in me, and outside of the ark now it's in my mind, and with love, joy, peace, patience, long suffering, endurance, all the fruits of the Spirit. So it's a continuity. Now the word lamb, when we go back to Exodus at the Passover, the word lamb, it's a four-legged animal, and it's exactly what we see with the flock of the herd, the flock of sheep. But when we look at the root word for lamb, It means to din or crash. Din, D-I-N, it means to make small. So it's kind of a picture of I hold something insignificant, or I try to hide. I don't want you to see me. I'm going to try to hide behind something that isn't worthy to cover me. But it also carries the meaning of desolation and laying waste. So I want to bring to light, I want to slay the lamb, I want to kill the lamb, the Passover lamb. So the things that are in me, my carnal mind, my desires to do things that are outside of the commands of Scripture, this is the things that I need to slay for my Passover lamb. If I'm the lamb of Yahushua, then I need to follow him, I need to be like him, and I need to slay or kill my lamb, and then I can go out no longer doing the desires of my flesh, but having the flesh, the Besarah, the good news, the glad news, and being filled with utterances of delight, instead of all these thousands of twisted imaginations of what does these mean. You know, that you get stories of the Nephilim, and then you get all these stories of Nimrod and Tamar, Abraham's father, and there's just all kinds of different really far-fetched ideas of how people interpret Scripture, and it all is founded because of the corrupted language. So there's some out there that do really in-depth studies, going down to the Hebrew letter breakdown, and each letter is a word in itself, and it has a meaning, or a realm of meanings. So Hebrew really isn't an exacted language. It's an idea. So when we see the Hebrew letters, pictograph, each letter gives us an idea of conduct. So as we put two letters together, it's a compounded idea. We put a third letter, a fourth letter, and each bracketed two letters in a four-letter word. They each carry a meaning, and then three letters carries a meaning, four letters carry a meaning. So when they're all put together, they carry a broader meaning. So it's sort of like making a picture. If you have a canvas and you start painting, you start doing your background first, and then adding detail on top of that to bring the picture, the closer up is painted on top of the background, and then the small details are added in at the end. And that's the way we see Scripture also, is the foundations laid out, and then as we read through Scripture, there's just more and more instructions added into that. So it's really an awesome, amazing, joyful thing to read and study and learn to do this. But so I want to touch real quick, we're getting up here 20 minutes. I wanted to keep this video really short. So when we look at the lamb slain from before the foundation of the world, the lamb is the thing that keeps us desolated, laying waste, separated from Yahuwah. So let's kill that, slay it. Okay, glad news, utterances, overwhelming delight, spoken from the mouth, a sharp sword. And when we understand the Scriptures, not just understanding one word in a paragraph or two words in a paragraph, search every word. Go back to the roots. It's going to take some time. It's not a simple thing to search them out. But when you do that and you start seeing the picture of Yah's plan that's really in there, then all of the dogmas of religion are washed away, and it makes everybody that wants to speak religion to you powerless, because the truth sets us free, and we're no longer in bondage under the lies. So I hope this blesses everybody. Baruch. and maybe enlightens someone's day. And look forward to seeing you again soon. Shalom.